Good morning. Welcome to, well, not a good morning. It's a good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, and yes, now TikTok at Hawk Blogger. And we got an audible. We're calling an audible on a Victory Monday. Normally Mondays we get to talk to Robert Mays. Thank you to Pagliacci Pizza for making that possible all year. In fact, Pagliacci Pizza sounds exactly like what I want to eat tonight for dinner. I will be ordering a pepperoni pizza, probably a Pagliaccio salad. Maybe I'll be tempted into one of their gelatos. Oh man, that I'm glad I just said that because that now figures out dinner for me. That's happening tonight. But unfortunately, Robert, his little pup is not feeling well, and he is, I think, I don't want to disclose if anything's too personal, but he's dealing with a sick puppy. So we will talk to Robert tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, which will be great. And we'll do that. And then 8:45 a.m. tomorrow, we will welcome in Mike Randall, our weekly Tuesdays with him. So we get a double guest tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we're going to do first look like we do, dive deep into this Packers matchup. I can't wait to do that. Then we're going to have Big Ray's Rewind. So Ray Roberts will be back with us. And folks, if you missed the last Big Ray's Rewind, you missed a good one because it was in that film session where we were going through and Ray was pointing out, look, Kenneth Walker is cutting back in some cases in situations where the play really is not designed for it. He's not helping out his offensive line. But at the same time, while we were doing that, we were seeing some pretty promising blocking going on by guys like Abe Lucas. And sure enough, give it a couple weeks later, and that was pretty proficient. And so that was a great episode. We'll have another great episode on Wednesday, so 2 there. Then we'll have Real Hawk Talk Wednesday night. And then a special Thursday, Sheil Kapadia of The Ringer is going to join me. Looking forward to catching up with Sheil. It's been a while. We've been trying to find time all year. Found time this Thursday, so we will do that. And then Friday, Mike Sando, like the whole thing. It's all happening, folks. It's all happening. And it's happening because the Seahawks are making it fun to happen. And appreciate all of you hopping on here, rolling with me as we change the time, we change the topic, we change the content, but you guys are here and you make it all worth it. So I appreciate that. Last thing I'll say before I kind of dive into the topic at hand is that this game against the Packers, it's got some things working against it. Primarily is that it is the highest priced ticket of the year based off of variable pricing. And if you don't know what variable pricing is, go to hawkblogger.com, read my article about the disappearing home field advantage across the NFL. And there's also an episode I did with Mike Sando and Dave Bowling where we talked about it. But point being that this is the highest priced variable price ticket of the year for the Seahawks, which generally leads to season ticket holders being more incentivized to sell that ticket because they can get the most for it, and it helps pay for some of their other tickets. And so the Packers are a team that travels well. They're having a very good year. There's obviously Packers fans all over the place. So they're going to have a high propensity to pay for those tickets and diminish our home field advantage. I want to do what I can to help. I won't be able to solve that problem, certainly myself, but I do want to help. And so I have created a couple of Google forms, one that allows people to sign up if they have tickets to sell, one that allows people to sign up if they're interested in buying. And I'm going to do my best to connect folks who are interested in buying seats. And this is not a place to go if you want to make the most money on your ticket. It's not the place to go to get the best deal on a ticket. It is a place to basically find a shared, probably face value price or somewhere around there for your tickets and make sure that they go to a Seahawks fan. And that's my goal. And I'm not going to get involved in negotiations. I'm just going to connect people. I will say that I've already sent out 3 email blast so far for people that have signed up as buyers because we've had three sets of tickets put up for sale. And it's a first come, first serve. If you get the email and I've matched you to the budget, if you're first come, you get the tickets, assuming that the price can be, met. No one's responded. That's weird to me. Like, I will get an inside view of ticket broker life and what the market is. But if you signed up as a buyer and you say you're willing to spend up to a certain price, and I send you an email with 2 seats that are within that price bracket, I hope you respond. I hope you respond. So, we'll see. I'll be curious. I would love to see if I can broker, hundreds of sales, hundreds of seats that get to Seahawks fans. I'll put something up on hawkblogger.com later today with the links to the form so that, if you want to sign up or tell people to sign up, you can do that. All right. So those are the preamble things and wanted to get those out of the way. There are a few different things I could have made this show topic about. Obviously, still basking in the glow of the Arizona win. And it was a great experience. It was great to be down in Arizona. Drove in a Waymo for the first time. If you've ever done that, it's a driverless car. That was an interesting experience. But what I think is on probably a lot of people's minds today is the division and where things sit. And the Seahawks just kind of ended, to some extent, one division contender. I think that's the perception. I'm going to show you why that may not be the case and why it was a really big deal to win that game. But the Seahawks aren't out of the woods with the Cardinals yet either. They still have work to do themselves. So I'm going to go through each of the division teams. We're going to talk about their remaining games, the schedule that they have. We're going to talk about where they are, generally speaking, like where do they rank in some of the key categories, so you can kind of get a feel for how teams are playing. I may do a bunch of random things that I don't even know that I'm going to do. We're just going to kind of explore this topic together. But the general gist will be going through each of these teams and kind of assessing. Oh, the other thing I know I will do is we'll go through the playoff predictor machine with ESPN. We'll go through and project, okay, if this happens, what happens here? We'll kind of just play around with it so everyone has a general feel for how things are going. I also would be crazy to not welcome back Detail Oriented. Bobby's back. He's been here and gone, and great to see him back with us. And of course, it wouldn't be a Detail show without him coming and gifting 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. So really appreciate you. If you get one of these, please consider paying it forward and giving one to somebody else. Bobby appreciates you as always. I'm sure you are enjoying this as much or more than anybody else. Vince Ochoa, who's been a member for 3 months, says, great win. How are we feeling about Grubb now? That's a great question, Vince. I mean, I wrote on hawkblogger.com a pretty long article this weekend about Ryan Grubb. It was user requested. I gave choices, and that's what people wanted me to write about. I feel like Ryan Grubb is one of the better OCs in the NFL. That's been my feeling. I think that he is adjusting. I think he's a rookie NFL coach in a challenging situation, not just with new faces and new bosses and new colleagues and peers, new front office. Yeah, he'd never dealt with a front office or a personnel department like that. And new defenses and style of play. Like, there's a lot that's different, and he's adjusting, and I think he's done a damn good job. If he was a rookie player and I was assessing his performance, I'd say this guy's really promising. To have, a quarterback that's been leading the NFL in passing for most of the season in a year when passing is down across the league is impressive. The fact that he's got JSN utilized as well as he is now, up to 5th among NFL receivers in receiving yards, I think is impressive. The fact that he's had to deal with this offensive line, and now with his, keep in mind, Scott Huff came with him. They are attached at the hip. They have been able to, with no help, essentially, from John Schneider trading in season. They just had to develop the guys that were given with third round picks, with 6 round picks. And now they've developed Satao Alamea, where he looks like one of the better guard prospects the Seahawks have had in many years. So I think I'm very happy with Ryan Grubb. I don't think he's been perfect. I don't think he's been everything I hoped for. But I think the idea that you're going to get better than him is potentially a real trap and could set you back. So that's where I am with Ryan Grubb. But good question, and thank you to Vince for being a member for 3 months. I appreciate you, man. All right. So let's go through and first set the bit on where we are from a current playoff seeding and current standings perspective. All right. So I will get you guys set up so you can see what I'm seeing. We'll go through this. All right. First things first. So this is the current set of, oops, there we go. This is the NFC West, current standings. Beautiful to see. Seahawks are 8-5. They are 1 game ahead of the Los Angeles Rams in both the win and the loss column. The Rams are 7-6. Cardinals are 6-7, and the 49ers are also 6-7. All right. If you're curious, it doesn't matter for playoff seedings or any of this stuff, but just from a point differential perspective, the Seahawks are the only team in the NFC West with a positive point differential, which is crazy to me. They are at plus 19. The Rams are at negative 34. The Cardinals are negative 5, and the 49ers are even. They have given up as many points as they've scored exactly to a T so far this season. So that's kind of the current state of the NFC West, just basic standings. Now let's look through playoff seedings, just so everyone's got that as well. Lions, king of the hill. They are the head of the pride, so to speak. So they are 12-1. The Eagles are 11-2. They're at number 2 in the seeding. And then your Seattle Seahawks are the 3rd seed as it currently stands. At 8-5, the Tampa Bay Bucks have overtaken the Falcons. They are now the 4th seed with a 7-6 record. The Minnesota Vikings are 11-2. They get the 5th seed. The Packers coming to town this week, 9-4. Washington Commanders are 8-5. Now, the reason all this matters, and by the way, the Rams are next, 7-6. Everybody else is 6-7 after that. The reason some of this come into play is we won't just talk about the NFC West teams once we get into the playoff kind of machine mode, because now there's at least some question about whether the Seahawks could get in as a wild card. It has been essentially a certainty that if they didn't win the division, that they weren't going to make the playoffs. There's some ways that could be incorrect, and we'll try to figure those out, suss those out, going through the playoff machine in a little bit to find out if there's a way that the Seahawks could get in without being the division champ. All right, so we'll look at that in a little bit. So that's where they are from a playoff standings perspective. Now let's take a look at the remaining schedules. All right, so we'll start off with the 49ers. Boo 49ers. But let's take a look at their schedule. And what you can see here is they just beat the Bears. They beat the pants off the Bears, 38-13. They will then they will host the Los Angeles Rams this Thursday at home on a Thursday night game. All right. So kind of like it's the weakest Thursday night travel situation around. You know, the 49ers had to travel to Seattle for a Thursday night game. That's pretty weak. The Rams travel to San Francisco. Like, it's basically like the same amount of time it takes most of the Rams to get home, probably in their commute in LA to their houses from the stadium. I mean, anyway, it's not much of a road trip, but it is a road trip. And And let's go ahead. I'm going to do this as well. Let's pull up. I'm going to pull up FTN Fantasy. I don't think they'll have the betting model up yet. It's usually Tuesday. And if not, we'll look elsewhere. This is for last week. So let's fall back to Vegas Insider. We will look for odds here, and we will look for week 15. All right. So week 15, the 49ers, if you cannot see this, 49ers are favored by between 2 and 2.5 points. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of mix and match things for right now. I'm going to go through and I'm going to set the playoff machine to the favorite winning in each case, just to start with. And then we'll decide if there's some places where we want to change that. So that means I'm going to go in here. We're going to go to week 15, and we are going to pick that the 49ers beat the Rams. Okay. We might as well go through the others here. So the Commanders are 7.5 point favorites over the Saints. So we'll make sure that the Commanders win. I wish they just let me have betting favorites as the default choice, but they don't. The Commanders, okay, they have that. Then we've got, don't care about that. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. Cowboys, Panthers, don't care. Eagles, I mean, I think they've got to be the one I've chosen anyway, but just double check. Eagles, where am I missing it? There it is. Eagles. All right, Eagles. That's an interesting one that they're 4.5 point favorites over the Steelers, up to 5. They had trouble with the Panthers, and the Steelers are a tough team to beat. Lions, that's gonna be a fun game. Don't care. Bucks. So Bucks and Chargers. We're gonna have the Bucks losing to the Chargers. Let's make sure that that's picked. Yep. Okay. And then we get to Patriots Cardinals. Cardinals are 6.5 point favorites. I would take the Cardinals and the points, I would take the Cardinals and lay the points is I think parlance. I think they're going to blow out the next team they play. They're probably very frustrated. And then the Packers Seahawks. The Packers are currently 2.5 points favorites over the Seahawks. Boo. But let's give this game to the Packers. Okay. And keep that just chalk for so far. Vikings Bears. The Vikings are 6.5 to 7 point favorites. So let's put the Vikings as a winner there. Where is it? Yep. Okay. So I think we're tracking, and then Falcons are favorites over the Raiders. So let's make sure Atlanta's chosen. Okay. All right. So that's week 15. If you guys don't mind, I know it's probably a little boring for you, and you can thrash me for it later, but I'm just going to keep doing this because I'm curious as we go through week 16. They won't have lines for all of these, so it won't take quite as long. But as we look ahead, we'll take the Lions over the Bears. Yep. We will take the Falcons over the Giants. That's got to already be picked. We will take the Cardinals over the Panthers. All right, that's picked. Rams Jets. The Jets are 3 point favorites over the Rams. Okay, we're gonna follow it. If you could still get that bet, I would take it. We do have that. All right, that's wild. Eagles Commanders. The Eagles are 3 point favorites over the Commanders. Let's make sure that that's selected. That is all right. Browns Bengals, Vikings Seahawks. Seahawks are 3 point favorites. So Seahawks get the win against the Vikings. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Then we keep going. 49ers are a favorite over the Dolphins. Okay, we got that. Bucks, Cowboys. Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites over the Bucks. That doesn't seem right. But we're going to give it to the Cowboys. Dallas. Yep. Wow. All right. Saints, Packers. Packers are favorites. They should be already picked here. Green Bay. Where's Green Bay? There they are. They're already picked. Okay. And then that's it for week 15. Let's go to, week 16. Let's go to week 17. Do we have any odds already for week 17? We do. All right. The Bears are 3.5 points favorites over the Seahawks. So this gets interesting. Let's give the Bears that game. I don't think it's a crazy thing that the Bears could win that game at home on Thursday Night Football. We've got nothing between the Falcons and Commanders. We got nothing. Well, we got some things showing up here. Jets, Bills. Okay. Packers, Vikings. Packers are 2.5-point favorites over the Vikings. Got it. Bucks are 5-point favorites over the Panthers. That should be, I'm sure, already selected. Yep. All right. Eagles over the Cowboys. That should be right. Yep. Lions, 49ers. 49ers are 4.5-point favorites over the Lions at home. Yikes. All right. Let's give the 49ers that game. Looks like they have it. All right. And then let's go all the way to week 18. You notice they don't have all of these games. So we're just going with what they've got. Very little. Okay, nothing in week 18. So if you're curious, just based off of what we have there, I will zoom in so you guys can see this. This ends up with the Seahawks winning. Okay, let me make sure I got this right. It has the Seahawks winning against the Rams in week 18. It has the Cardinals beating the Rams, the Bears beating the Seahawks beating so basically the wins would be for the Seahawks against the Vikings, against the Rams, and that would be it. So they go 2-2 the rest of the way. Is that right? Because it has them at 11-6. Oh no, I think the Packers were supposed to be picked here. There we go. I think that didn't get selected. There we go. All right. So it has us losing to the Packers, losing to the Packers and Bears, beating the Vikings and Rams. In that scenario, the Seahawks would be the 3rd seed. They would host the Vikings again in the first round of the playoffs. And the 7th seed would be the Commanders, who'd finish 11-6. Interestingly, I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive, that if we went ahead to week 18 and I flipped that Rams-Seahawks game, that's... Wow! Actually, it would be the 49ers in this scenario that would get in at 10-7. That's really interesting. We won't go through every machination, but that's fascinating. Must be, I think if there's a 3-way tie, this is what happens with, yeah. So, oh no, it's not a 3-way tie even. It would be the Seahawks being, and wow, the Rams being 8-9. Why are the Rams? I feel like something's wrong here. The Rams aren't going to lose all these games. So the Cardinals really, I think we don't have that, right? Let's pick LA to win that one. Anyway, I'm going to play around with this later, but let's go back and look at these teams and their schedule. So again, you've got the Rams, you've got the Dolphins, you've got the Lions and the Cardinals for the 49ers. The 49ers are 6-7. So if the 49ers win all 4 of their games, they will finish 10-7. All right. The other thing that's important to understand with the 49ers is that their record in the division, this doesn't have it here, so let me pull it up on ESPN's site. Their divisional record is not great, and this is going to hold them back. So if we go to standings and we look at, this is a better standings to look at anyway. You see that the 49ers are 1-3 in the division. So they have 2 division games left. Everybody's got, they've got 2 division games left. The Cardinals have 2 division games left. The Rams have 3 division games left. The Seahawks have just 1. All right. So the Seahawks are mostly through their divisional games after playing, 4 divisional opponents in the last 5 weeks. Divisional record, like the first tiebreaker will be head-to-head. The second tiebreaker will be divisional record. Third tiebreaker will be conference record. So the Seahawks are in decent shape as the only team right now with a winning divisional record. They also have the best conference record at 4-4 among the teams in the NFC West. This 3-4 at home is just bizarre and unfortunate, but it is what it is. So the 49ers could finish as high as, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. So the 49ers could finish as high as 3-3 in the division. That would be their best possible division record. The Rams division record could be as high as 5-1. So that's why the Rams pose a different kind of threat to the Seahawks. Not only that, but the Rams have a game in hand against the Seahawks, having beat them in Seattle. So if they win at home in the final game of the season, then they will have the tiebreaker over the Seahawks head to head. That's all they need to do. They don't need to care about anything else. So they feel good about that situation. The Seahawks, if they beat the Rams at home, let's play with that. Let's do that right now. If you guys will, let's do this. Where if the Seahawks beat the Rams at home in the final game of the regular season, and let's play around with a couple other things here. What about in week 17? Let's have the Rams win. That's fine. Let's have the 49ers lose one of these games. Let's have the Lions beat the 49ers, okay? Week 16. What do we have here? Let's have the Seahawks lose to the Vikings as well. So this would basically be the Seahawks would lose every game except for the Rams game. All right? And the Rams are they tied here? Okay, let's have the Rams beat the 49ers here. Okay? So in this scenario, the Rams would go 2-1, and the Seahawks would go 1-3. They would end up with the same record, but they would beat the Rams. In this scenario, the Rams win because, let's see if we have the tiebreakers. Does it show up here? Yeah, so in this scenario, Los Angeles would win the tiebreaker over Seattle based off of the best win percentage in conference games. Okay. So interestingly, I mean, if the Rams, has the Rams again going 2-2. All All right. So if the Rams need to go a game better than the Seahawks just to tie them. So that's one of the complicated things here. I'm curious. Let's look at the Rams schedule. The Rams schedule is, that's not what I wanted to do. The Rams schedule is all conference games other than the Jets. So if they lost, let's say they lost to the Cardinals. Yeah, I'm not sure there's a scenario here that really makes sense for this. But point being is that the Seahawks are in a situation where basically they're going to want to win at least 2 games. I think in almost any scenario, the Seahawks, to feel comfortable, are going to want to win at least 2 games. Now, why is that the case? Well, so another scenario here is, let's say if the Cardinals win out. And let's take a look at the Cardinals schedule, because you might say that's crazy. The Cardinals aren't going to win out. Well, the Cardinals are going to have the Patriots at home. They're going to travel to the Panthers. And then they're going to go to the Rams and home against the 49ers. The hardest game in there is traveling to the Rams. They beat the Rams 41-10 earlier this year. Now, granted, there was injuries. It's a different Rams team. But they played pretty well against the Rams. I think there's a decent case to be made that the Cardinals could potentially win out. If they won out, let's just do that scenario real quick for us all to see that. So if the Cardinals won out, so they win this game, they win against the Panthers, they win against the Rams, okay, and they win against the 49ers. If the Cardinals win out, and the Seahawks just go 1-3, they lose. So I think it's a plausible scenario. Now, pretty much any scenario where the Seahawks win 2 games. 2 games. Let's say they beat the Bears. Then the Cardinals are out of it. Like anything that allows the Seahawks to tie the Cardinals record, which the best the Cardinals can do is win 10 games. That's if they win every single game the rest of the year. So all the Seahawks have to do is win 2 games in order to beat the Cardinals in a tiebreaker. All right. So we should become very big Cardinals fans at this point. Have them win every single game. Well, maybe have them win 3 games. I don't know. But definitely have them beat the 49ers and have them beat the Rams. That would be great. For the 49ers, again, they got the Rams, they got the Dolphins away, they got home against the Lions, at the Cardinals. That's a pretty tough slate. The Seahawks, I think by far, folks, they by far have the toughest finishing slate. I don't think it's close. Packers and Vikings are at home, but they are the two of the best teams in the NFC. The Bears, and then at the Bears on Thursday night, that is going to be a really hard thing to do. Travel. Now, they've been really good on the road, 5-1, but traveling on Thursday night is not easy. Then the good news is they will get an extended break. Because they have that Thursday night game, they will get an extended break heading into the final game against the Rams. Let's look at some history here. What has Mike Macdonald done when he's had a little extra time? When he had the Thursday night game against the 49ers that did not go well, there was a home game. They had an extra bit, a little mini bye week, so to speak. They went and destroyed the Falcons 34-14 the next week. Okay? When they had the actual bye week, they went down and did something that Seattle hasn't done for 3 or 4 years, and that's beat the 49ers. So those are our 2 pieces of evidence of that when Mike Macdonald and his staff have extra time to prepare, how do they play? Pretty well so far. So I think you got to feel a little skeptical about this Bears game. I honestly think that's a tough game, even though the Bears are the weakest of these four teams. I really like Mike McDonald's chances to confuse Caleb Williams. I like the Seahawks defense in general in that matchup. I respect the Bears defense, so we'll see where things match up by the time we get there. But it could also be like snowing. Who knows what kind of weather that's going to be at that point. But I do like how that sets up the Seahawks for extra rest to go into that final week. But let's look at the Rams, who are the biggest, the biggest threat. They're the biggest threat at this point. I don't think there's any question about that. So they have at the 49ers on short rest Thursday night this week. Then they go to the Jets. So they get back-to-back road trips. Now they're going to get their extended rest for that Jets game. Jets aren't tough. Like we just saw that they're not tough. They did play better against the Dolphins, and I think they even got that win. So who knows? Maybe they will be a little peppier. But those are... I think the 49ers game is arguably their toughest game left. I'm a little biased about the Seahawks, obviously. But setting that aside... traveling to San Francisco, a team that's just played a really good game against the Bears, getting a little bit healthier, that's probably their toughest game. The 49ers have a lot still to play for. They think that they can potentially sneak in. And I think their pride is pretty wounded. So if I was just looking at that game, I would pick the 49ers to win that game. But we'll see. My recollection is that what it used to be is that Sean McVay owned Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll owned Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan owned Sean McVay. That was kind of the circle that was in the NFC West for a while. I'm sure, players, things have changed over time, but Shanahan's done pretty well against McVay over the years. So if they lose that game, if the Rams lose that game, let's just play with that for a second. Let's go back here. And let's have the 49ers beat the Rams, okay? So let's have the 49ers beat the Rams. Let's have the Rams win against the Jets. Let's have the Rams beat the Cardinals, but they lose to the Seahawks. What does that do? Okay, so they'd have still... All right, so in that situation, if they beat the Seahawks, then it's just a seesaw. One of them will be 9-8 or 8-7. Let me go back and do what I think is going to happen here. I'm going to go through my guesses. I think the Seahawks are going to beat the Packers. I don't know. I got to do my tail of the tape. That changes things, but let's just put that in there. This is kind of like, what does this do? Okay, at least a little bit works. If you have them beating the Packers and the Vikings, but losing to the Bears and then losing to the Rams, they end up both at 10-7, and the Rams win. So there's a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of ways where that final game could really be for the division, right? Like, you're kind of, this Rams game against the Cardinals is just going to be pivotal. All right, there is one scenario. Oh, no, sorry, never mind. I thought there was one scenario where the Rams would tie. I think in almost any scenario where the Rams are tied with the Seahawks, they're going to win. So the Seahawks need to finish with a record above the Rams. I haven't found a combination yet that works where the Seahawks finish with the same record as the Rams, and that they win, because I think if that happens, you're pushing up the Cardinals, or you're pushing up the 49ers. There's enough kind of nepotism happening between these teams the rest of the way that if you have the Rams lose to the 49ers, that means the 49ers are winning a game. Duh. If you have them losing the Cardinals are winning a game. So I think the Rams, I'll tell you this. Let's do a little bit of looking into the Rams. Let's go a little bit deeper in the Rams. So where are they right now? Defensively, over the last few games, I mean, they've been giving up points to pretty much everybody. The only people that didn't score on them is the New Orleans Saints, but they gave up 23 to the Dolphins. They gave up 22 to the Patriots. They gave up 37 to the Eagles, who just dominated them. They gave up 42 to the Bills. Now, everyone's excited about the Rams, not Seahawks fans, but everyone else, because of this number. They scored 44 on the Bills, and they beat the Bills. If they had lost that game, the Seahawks odds would have been significantly higher because, again, the Rams need to tie the Seahawks in order to beat them or finish with a better record than them. And it just would have become harder to do if they had lost that game. But they won it. Kudos. Good job. Their offense has been struggling previously. They had 0 points in the first half against the Saints. They had a lot of trouble against the Eagles. The Seahawks defense, by the way, let me show you that because I love looking at it. If you look at where the defenses have been since week 9, okay? We're just going to look from week 9 on. If I can get it updated, all right? If you look at week 9 on, there's 2 defenses that are showing up and showing out. And one of them Seattle's, all right? So you can see right here, the Eagles and the Seahawks defense are essentially the same since week 9. And the Eagles defense is what everybody is saying is like the bee's knees. It is the best defense going. It's amazing. Look what they're doing. It's all coming together. Seahawks defense has been just right there with them. And I'm curious, the other thing I've been looking at recently is percentage of drives that have resulted in scores. I think I'd have to do this in another view. But even let's just do it across the season so far. The Seahawks are 6th in the NFL in percentage of drives ending in scores, 32%. So they're actually above the Eagles in that category. But these are the kind of defenses that win playoff games. You're talking about the Chargers are number 1, the Vikings number 2, Steelers number 3, Broncos number 4, Lions number 5, Seahawks number 6, 7th is the Eagles. So getting back to the point here, if I'm looking at what the Rams have done, and I look at this over this is their defense. Look at where the Rams show up. And by the way, look at where the Bills show up. Everyone's like, oh, man, they scored 44 against the Bills. Let's see what the Bills have done recently. Whoops. Stop it. All right, there we go. Look at what the Bills have done recently. Defensively, yes, they gave up 44 to the Rams, but they gave up 372 yards to the 49ers, even though they only gave up 10 points. 366 to the Chiefs, 415 to the Colts, 325 to the Dolphins. Sorry, that's the wrong. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Defensively, they gave up 457 to the Rams, 361 to the Colts, 373 to the Dolphins. So the Bills have not been as dominant as they once were. It's interesting to see the Chiefs back here as well. 49ers down here. Cardinals over here. Cardinals have been one of the best defenses in the NFL over this same period of time. The Seahawks just dominated them. So as we look at this, and then we look at the offenses. Let's take a look at the offenses. We'll look at the same period of time. It's not going to be as nearly as pretty for the Seahawks, I can guarantee you, during that look. What you get there is Seahawks team that's down here. They are below the average in rush EPA and in dropback EPA. And then you get the Rams. This is why people get excited. People love offense. So even though the Seahawks defense has been a better unit, like this, the Rams are below average rush offense even over this time. Definitely been passing the ball well, given their last game at least. But they're not even in the top quadrant here. The Seahawks were up here for defense, right? So the Seahawks defense has been playing significantly better than the Rams offense, like by any measure. But the Rams passing game has come to life. You've got the Packers here who are going to play prominently up here for Seattle. Good offense. You've got the 49ers still kicking offensively here. They're not that far. And then you got the Vikings. That offense has been, they've been playing pretty complete football. So they had a big game yesterday. Sam Darnold had a big game. They'll be coming to town in 2 weeks. Cardinals back here. So, and then the Bears, by the way, the Bears offense is back here. So this is why, even though Caleb Williams is talented and they've got those receivers, you do have to feel pretty good about the Seahawks' chances of defending that team and causing some turnovers. So, of the teams that are in play, the Rams are going to, the Jets are over here. It's not terrible, but not great. They're going to have to face the Cardinals, who are here, but they did score 41 against the Rams. They're going to have to face the 49ers. That's probably the closest team. Now, if we just look at team tiers in general, so this looks at where they are offensively and defensively from an EPA standpoint, okay? So you've got the, Eagles and Lions as basically almost in a tier by themselves. Ravens and Bills are in a similar category right behind them. And then there's this tier 3. Seahawks are going to face 2 tier 3 teams, Packers and the Vikings. They're the only team, other than the 49ers, are going to face the Lions. Seahawks are the only team to face 2 teams that are tier 3 or higher, at least by this measure. Okay? The Rams are going to face, they're going to face basically a bunch of tier 4s. Well, they're going to face the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the 49ers, who are all tier 4 teams. And then they're going to face the Jets. The Jets, who are a tier 6 team. So that's the reality. I think that, as I said before, if you defense is about who's higher is better. So the Seahawks are basically, they're right there as one of the best defensive teams in the league over this period of time. The Rams are good, but they're not this reads this way for a great offense. There's a number of offenses that are ahead of them. So again, the Seahawks defensive unit has been the best unit in the NFC West since week 9. And I think most consistent as well. So I think where you end up there, and we should take a look at injuries as well. Let's just take a look at that. It's something I always like to do. If we go and we look at injury report, I don't know if there's any injuries coming out of the game yesterday for the Rams. If you guys know, shoot me up, hit me up in, not shoot me up, hit me up in chat. So you can see here in this view, where they've been getting guys back. So here, Steve Avila had been on IR. He's been back for 4 weeks now. Jonah Jackson, their big free agent signing, had been on IR. He's been back for 4 weeks. So this is where the narrative's coming in of they're getting healthier in their offensive line. Tyler Higbee out for 2 weeks. not on IR. Not sure if he's going to be coming back soon or not. Rob Havenstein, he was out for a while. So another offensive lineman, he's been back for 2 weeks. All right. So they got 3 of their offensive linemen back. Other guys that really not a lot else going on here. So they've just gotten a number of their offensive linemen back, which is helping. If we go and we take a look at how those guys are playing, let's take a look at yesterday's game. Let's take a look at the Rams offensive line play. I mean, Matt Stafford obviously has been playing really well, but if you look at their offensive line, you've got Bo Limmer, you've got Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, and then Alaric Jackson and Havenstein. So it doesn't even look like Jonah Jackson is playing for them at this point, which is interesting. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where the things are with the Rams. I think the 49ers, you always got to be aware that was a pretty impressive, like the most dominating performance they've had all year by far. And one of the things that's worth looking at there, if we go and just take a look at the box score of that game. So let me just pull that up real quick. They don't have Christian McCaffrey. They don't have, Jordan Mason, right? But what did they do? They put up 452 yards against a pretty good Bears defense. They held the Bears to 162 yards, 94 net yards passing, which is crazy. They sacked Caleb Williams 7 times. Caleb Williams in that game, 17 of 23, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 7 sacks. This is where quarterback or passer rating can be very misleading. He had 116.9 passer rating, but that's not a good game. Their leading rusher, DeAndre Swift, only had 38 yards. You go over to the 49ers, you get Brock Purdy with 20 of 25, 325 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, only sacked once, 145.4 rating. Played pretty well. Isaac Guerrero, their rookie, 15 carries, 78 yards, two tutties. Also had 2 catches for 50 yards. Receiving wise, George Kittle's back and making plays, 6 catches for 151 yards. Jawan Jennings, 7 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, you got some of their playmakers back on offense, and that's what makes that team work. Defensively, you had Yatir Gross-Matos have 3 sacks. He was a guy that punished Charles Cross, if you remember, on that sack in San Francisco. Leonard Floyd had 2 sacks, Malik Collins. So they didn't have Nick Bosa in this game. They still managed to get a bunch of pressure. Are the 49ers a dangerous team? Absolutely. And I think I don't think you fear the 49ers, though. I don't think you fear the 49ers. I think you probably hope that they beat the Rams. I think if they beat the Rams, here's the danger, is that they could win out. I mean, that Lions game, it's going to be in San Francisco, Monday Night Football, and who knows what the Lions situation will be. They're fighting so many injuries right now. But generally speaking, I think you got to feel like you want the 49ers to beat the Rams. I think if you're a Seahawks fan, that's what you want to see. I know people like my lighting. The sun is shining. I can't do anything about it, so apologies for that. But I've got actually lighting in front of me, but the sun overpowers it all, so apologies for that. So I think you definitely want to see the 49ers beat the Rams, and then you want the Lions to beat the 49ers for multiple reasons. most likely the Seahawks, the Seahawks need to go at least 2-2. And I think one of those two wins has got to be against the Rams. Like, that's your best bet. I think if we want to talk about the Seahawks going 1-3 and getting in, let's do that scenario for a second. Let's actually say, I think this is plausible enough. Let's say the Seahawks lose to the Packers. Let's see the Seahawks lose to the Vikings. Let's say the Seahawks lose to the Bears, but they beat the Rams. Okay? That would put the Seahawks at 9-8. So in that scenario, I've got one here where let's see about what I've got going on for the Rams. Ooh, okay. I found an interesting one, folks. All right, here is a scenario where the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams all finish 9-8. This would mean the Seahawks finish 1-3. Their only win that they get the rest of the way is against the Rams, okay? So they lose to the Packers, they lose to the Vikings, they lose to the Bears, but they beat the Rams in the last game of the season, 9-8. What happens with the Rams? Well, the Rams lose to the 49ers. The Rams beat the Jets, so they win the AFC game. The Rams beat the Cardinals, so they go 2-2. All right? They go 2-2. The Seahawks go 1-3. So now they have the same record because the Seahawks have a one-game lead. But San Francisco in this situation, they beat the 49ers beat the Rams. They beat the Dolphins. They lose to the Lions. Plausible. And then they beat the Cardinals. Okay? So I think all those things are plausible. And what happens there is the three teams finish with a 9-8 record. And the reason the Seahawks win is because they have a better divisional record in that scenario. They would finish in that case with a 4-2 divisional record, and the Rams and 49ers would finish with a 3-3 record. Okay. So again, winning that Rams game, the last game of the season, is going to be the biggest game. Almost any scenario, it's going to end up looking like that's a huge game. But if the Seahawks win 2 games, they're going to be tough to beat. I think they're going to be tough to beat, especially if one of those 2 games is against the Rams. I think if the Seahawks beat the Rams and they beat one other team the rest of the way, almost any of the other teams are all NFC teams, then the Seahawks should be in pretty good shape to get in. So that's kind of like where things are. I think, Seahawks, like I said, playing the best, I think the most complete football of any team right now in the division. The Rams had the most impressive one unit for one game against the Bills. Sure. But the Seahawks defense has been among the best in the NFL every week for the last 5 weeks. I'll take that over a flash that has come and gone with that team. I also would just point out that when the Rams came to Seattle, Mike McDonald totally outcoached Sean McVay. The only reason that was a game was because the Seahawks had snapping problems and because Geno Smith threw 2 red zone interceptions, one of which turned into a 100+ yard pick 6. And he threw 3 interceptions, I think, overall in that game. I can't remember, but at least 2. So that was not about the Rams offense. That was about the Seahawks making bozo moves. And the Seahawks have a different offensive line. They have a different offense than they did even a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And they have a defense that I think, if you look at Mike McDonald's history, track record, there aren't a lot of examples of offensive coordinators playing him and getting better against him. The evidence is actually the other way around, that the more a team plays Mike McDonald, the more he locks in on your tendencies and chokes you out. So that's the piece that I would just leave you with is, I mean, Sean McVay was worried about Mike McDonald joining the division, before the season. He talked about it. I think that could ultimately be prescient because I think Mike McDonald's got some things in store for the rest of the division, the rest of the way. The Seahawks, by winning, I mean, gosh, if they could have just won that game, man, this would be all but over. All but over. But it's not. So we'll get to see that. I'm looking forward to that game. I will be at that game. I think the Seahawks got a very decent shot to win that game. I would pick the Seahawks in that game if it's happening right now. Lots can change over the next few weeks, so we will see. Now, if the Seahawks want to do something crazy and just beat the Packers and the Vikings and then beat the Bears, even just beating the Packers and the Vikings, go for it, guys. If they do that, I think it's all but over. So we will see. All right, everybody. Hopefully you're able to keep up with that random, exploration of where things are in the division and what's going on across the NFC West. I hope you liked the little pink cowboy hat that I put on the 49ers logo in the YouTube thumbnail. Made me happy. I want to thank Preston Morrow for the super chat. Says, you're the man. Thank you. You're the man, Preston. Thank you. Appreciate it. Give the show a like, click subscribe. Help me out getting the TikTok account up to 1,000 follows so that we can do live shows on TikTok as well. That would be a free, simple thing you could do to help out the show. And then also let people know. I will go and post it on hawkblogger.com right now. The links to the buying and selling ticket registry that I've started so that we can get as many Seahawks fans in the seats this weekend and next as possible. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, TikTok, Ad Hoc Blogger. We will be back tomorrow with Robert Mays, as well as Mike Randall. I'll be talking to Coach Mike McDonald in about an hour and a half. If there's anything crazy, I'll be sending out notes about it. And then we will be back tomorrow. This has been episode 260 of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, everybody.